Halloween, The Curse of Michael Myers was released in 1995 and was directed by Joe Chappelle and stars Donald Pleasence, Paul Rudd, and Mary Ann Hagen, and is set 6 years after Michael Myers last terrorized Haddonfield. He returns in pursuit of his niece Jamie Lloyd, who has escaped with her newborn child, for which Michael and a mysterious cult have sinister plans. Another year, another Halloween movie to review, and it feels crazy that we're now 6 entries in, and what a film to talk about, because Curse of Michael Myers is one of the most infamous entries in the franchise for multiple reasons. But it also happens to be one of the most interesting as well. Due to there being 2 official cuts of this movie, the theatrical cut and the unofficial turned official producer's cut, which gives us the film that was originally intended to be released, and we'll be talking about both cuts of the film here. So, let's waste no more time and do what we always do here and go behind the scenes to see just how this film was made. After the poor response to Halloween 5, The Curse of Michael Myers, the series was put on hold for reevaluation. By 1990, though, work on a 6th film began, and Daniel Farrens was tasked with writing the script, creating a series Bible to work off of. There were many drafts the film went through, but mainly the focus was put towards the Curse of Thorn plotline, which became the backbone of the film we would eventually get. The idea was that Michael Myers was under a curse through a runic symbol of Thorn, which compelled him to kill. He wanted to focus on the druid and occult aspects of Halloween, and by June of 1994, there were around 10 drafts of the script. Filming would begin in the fall of 1994 in Salt Lake City, with the original hospital scenes being shot at an abandoned old primary children's hospital in Salt Lake City as well. Problems also occurred on set, such as director Chappelle rewriting the ending of the film on set and deleting scripted scenes, as well as rewriting dialogue. Miramax would even order more reworked scenes to change the film as a whole. And in early 1995, the film was completed and screened for a test audience of mainly 14-year-old boys who were displeased with the ending and found the Donald Pleasence role boring. At this point, Donald Pleasence had already passed away, so reshoots made for the film had to be rewritten around the fact they could no longer use Donald Pleasence, which made him absent throughout much of the film's finale. The reshoots went on for 4 days, and the cult aspects of the film were more downplayed and the violence ramped up. The troubled production led to 2 cuts of the film, which began a legal battle as to what version of the film would end up being released. The film would also go through name changes, with a trailer calling the film at one point Halloween 666, the origin of Michael Myers. The movie would go on to be released on September 29th of 1995, and on a budget of $5 million, it made a total of $15.1 million. Critically, the film became one of the worst reviewed films in the series, with many finding it dull and tired, with the script being impossibly convoluted. And for the longest time, the theatrical cut of the film was the only one released until a producer's cut started making its way online years later that painted a very different film that had many scenes not present in the original cut, and the cult aspects expanded upon. The popularity of this cut led to an eventual official release of the producer's cut that I happily own on Blu-ray now. Halloween, The Curse of Michael Myers was a troubled production through and through, and there's a lot that I could have gone into more detail on, but we have 2 versions of this film to talk about, so let's waste no more time and go into my thoughts on the film. First off, I want to say The Curse of Michael Myers, no matter what cut you watch, is not a good movie. But I think its reputation as a mess has painted a false picture that there's nothing redeeming about the film, which is completely false. There are parts of both versions that I think do certain aspects well. The film as a whole, though, just isn't that good as a whole. but there are aspects of it I do enjoy. So let's first of all talk about some of the positives I have with the theatrical cut. Well, first off, the theatrical cut is a much meaner movie than the producer's cut, with much more violence, and sometimes this can be entertaining, like with the death of John Strode, where he's electrocuted by Michael and then his head explodes in a glorious and satisfying death for such an unlikable character. And it's even an improvement over his more subtle death in the producer's cut. I also think Marianne Hagen does a good job of filling in the shoes left behind by Jamie Lee Curtis. She's a pretty solid and interesting lead, and there's some cool concepts with her son Danny hearing the same voices that Michael heard years ago that told him to kill his sister, and reveals that Danny could become another Michael. That idea is haunting. I also think it's a really good idea that the main family is living in the Myers house. And as always, it's great to see Donald Pleasance as Dr. Loomis, who stayed committed until the very end. And his performance in this is honestly one of the best aspects of both versions of the film. And this could be seen as a negative, but Paul Rudd's super out there performance is just so insane and kind of laughable that it's just extremely entertaining in the end. Where the movie falls apart is it's just a very bland film that lacks any atmosphere, and it's edited together like an MTV music video, and quick flashes and messy editing that just doesn't fit all too well in this movie. The ending, which was mostly reshot, is incredibly confusing, with especially an operating scene with strobe lights, and it's so hard to tell what is happening. And then it finally ends with Paul Rudd beating the crap out of Michael with a lead pipe, and it's both the most awesome and dumbest thing ever, because Michael at this point has been shot multiple times, blinded, burned, and buried alive. And what defeats him is just a good whack in the head. It's lame, and the ending of the film just feels so unsatisfying. And one of the film's biggest crimes is the violent and mean-spirited death of Jamie Lloyd, which is done more for shock value than an important part of the story. However, despite these flaws and the whole cult aspects that feel so silly and weirdly implemented into this franchise, the film is mostly just dull and kind of boring. But there's nothing in the film I downright hated aside from the editing. It's just bland and has good ideas that are just not utilized well and are surely going to piss off longtime fans. As for the producer's cut, regardless of what you think of the strange implementations of the cult and the whole concept of Michael Myers impregnating his own niece, which is all kinds of screwed up, the producer's cut at least feels like a movie. In fact, the producer's cut does what it can to try to replicate the atmosphere of the original Halloween, which I appreciate. It has tension and actual suspense, and the musical cues are just far more realized. Everyone has time to feel like an actual character, and it gives a more complete experience. We understand the cult aspect of the film more, and the occult ritualistic parts of the movie are more prevalent and lead to a very unique entry in this franchise. I think Farrens was onto something with bringing Halloween into the more ritualistic side of the holiday. It was a great idea that probably wasn't executed the best, but it was an idea that, despite people probably not going to like it, it at least took a swing at doing something different, which I appreciate. The producer's cut is also less violent overall, and tries to fit more in line with the original film because of that. Its focus is not on shock horror, but creating a creepy atmosphere, and I think it succeeds in that respect where the theatrical cut fails. Donald Pleasance is also great. He has more of a presence in this version of the film, which makes his final performance much more of a satisfying film for the actor. Pleasance is, in my opinion, one of the best aspects of this franchise and has always turned in a great and committed performance, even with his crazy out there performance in the fifth film. I think if you just accept the cult-like aspects of the sixth film and look at the film for its atmosphere, you get a film that might not be that good of a movie, but it's definitely one that has more effort put into it and feels like an actual movie, whereas the theatrical cut feels like a music video and lacks an atmosphere, and is just a meme movie overall. I'm not here to say I think The Curse of Michael Myers is a good movie. It's not. But I'm here to say its ideas are not altogether bad and shouldn't just be dismissed. I don't hate this movie, in fact, I never have, and I find both versions of the film somewhat entertaining. But I can't deny it's narratively messy, but I'm just happy that the producers cut that they really tried to do something different and tie it into more of the ritualistic aspects of the holiday. So, with all of that said, I'm going to give Halloween, The Curse of Michael Myers, a 5 out of 10. I still think Halloween 5 to be a much worse and annoying movie, and I appreciate quite a bit about this movie, especially the producer's cut. Also, I want to apologize for not going as in-depth into this film as some of my past reviews this month. Usually I have a whole week to prepare, write, and film these reviews, but with filming this soon after the last review, I just didn't have the time to go into depth like I wanted to. But I hope I got across my main points for both versions of this film, and I hope I persuaded people to see some of the good aspects of the movie that's not really that good to begin with. But I want to thank you all for watching this review, and thanks for joining me this October as we talked about some really interesting horror films, and look forward to next year's lineup of films as well. But moving forward, we'll be going back to what we usually do with Disney reviews and continue on with my Fantastic Beasts reviews. Other than that, that's all I have for you. So as always, don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe to the channel, and stay positive.